Should we look a little bit about how people behave in a crisis situation as well? We've talked about that a little bit, and Amanda, you were talking about the issue of fake news. We've seen a huge amount of fake news going around, haven't we, in this crisis, and things like whether drinking bleach is going to cure you of the virus, and not helped, of course, by some of the stuff coming out of the US. And all sorts of things like how you can cure it, how you can avoid it. Some deliberately fake news being shared. Some is people, I think, sharing things because they believe that their networks are telling the right things. And you saw a lot of that in Manchester as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest issues is the speed, I think, with which some of this fake news arrives. And there was a case in when I was dealing with the Manchester Arena, where literally as soon as I was made aware of what had happened, which was minutes, really, 10 minutes after it had happened, my first thing was to go on social media and to put Sky News on, and on social media there was a fake photograph circulating. No, it hadn't been done deliberately. It was from a training exercise, but it's the speed with which it comes, and it's there throughout. And that a lot of the time it's genuinely just somebody actually believing it, but it's inaccurate. But with something that we're dealing with at the moment, like this, it's got the potential to impact on people's lives. So I think it's how do you build that into your planning and your preparations and your work to be able to tackle it and address it. And I don't know, Kate, what are your views of how the best ways of kind of managing some of that is, particularly around the social media side?
I mean, social media is the conduit for this stuff, isn't it? And I think you have to stay on top of it. That there's a real difference of opinion about how to handle it, between whether you ignore fake news or whether you address it. And I think you absolutely have to address it. Some of that is particularly if it's related to what your brand or your organisation does, or to the advice that you're putting out. I think you have to stay on top of it where you can. As you say, the speed at which this stuff travels is absolutely terrifying. And I think it's interesting to look at why that is. And psychologists say that we spread misinformation much more quickly than we spread real information, because misinformation is designed to be more interesting than, the lies are very often more interesting than the truth. And very often you take your own confirmation bias and the misinformation will confirm what you think. So if you are predicated to think something about a government spokesperson, for example, and then you see somebody on your network telling you that this person has done something, then you're likely to believe it. So we all take things on according to our own bias, and that can be very, very difficult in terms of halting the spread of fake news, because quite often the truth just isn't as interesting. But as a brand or an organisation or an individual, if you're having rumours and fake news spread about yourself that could be damaging to you, I think you have to try and keep on top of it where you can, and at least correct that information, put out the right information to counter it. But at the bottom of this is trust, isn't it? If people don't trust you as the voice of authority in a crisis, then people are going to believe the fake news over what you're saying. So you have to, before a crisis hits, the work that you need to do to establish trust with your audiences is phenomenal. Because it's only if people trust you that they'll believe what you say.